And we're live. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, watching us live, and thank you everyone who's watching this as a recording.
Yes, thank you. So tonight we're joined by Representative David Boyer from District 87. And every time I say District 87, I think of the Hunger Games. And Jared Pinkham, co-founder of Missing in Me. So welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Absolutely.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So David, if you wouldn't mind, I put in the show notes as far as what the bill is that you guys are presenting to Congress. And if you could kind of tell us how you got involved with it, and is there something that happened in your background that made you want to champion this?
Sure. Yeah, I got involved because Jared is a constituent here in District 87, which is Poland and Mechanic Falls. And he talked to me about his nonprofit and Missing in Maine and how it's an issue in Maine. And, I didn't realize that we had such a high per capita of missing people here in the state. So, it made sense since we're a very rural state. So, we tried to come up with ideas about how we can help find people or, tackle, begin to tackle some of these issues, apply, government to some of the issues that Jared was trying to, fund and privately, look for these folks and work with government. But what we kind of came up with is we realized, or, Jared at least alerted me to the fact that we had a couple dozen unidentified remains in the state's possession going back to the 70s, I believe. And so the idea was like, geez, we have all these missing people right now. We have some folks that are unidentified here in state possession. There has to be some crossover here, and maybe we can bring some closure to people, to the families that are missing folks, and also maybe save some tax dollars, not looking for folks that are simply just unidentified as well. So that's kind of where the bill idea came together. And he also educated me about reverse genealogy DNA testing, basically working backwards, looking at DNA to find the relatives of the missing person. So the state used that here in Maine for some criminal, cases to find, solve murders and whatnot. But our state also used it to identify folks, but they didn't have enough in their budget. When they did use it, I think about 1 in 3 times it was successful when they tested. So, and this is something that costs like $5,000, $8,000. So, we have a fiscal note of $100,000 on this bill to just fund it and really save some resources and bring some closure to families. So I can leave it there, or Jared can jump in, or however you want to go.
And first of all, I want to thank you for actually listening to your constituents.
Yes, absolutely.
A big thing. So,
it's compelling.
And then Jared, welcome aboard here. You are muted, Jared.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, you're here. So Jared, if you want to kind of mind introducing yourself and your role with all this.
Yeah. So I'll get into the very beginning of kind of how this came about for me up here in Maine. I grew up in the Livermore Falls and Jay area where Kimberly Morrow went missing. Had a pretty profound impact on my life growing up, watching her father, put up signs here, there, and everywhere looking for her. So as I became a young man, I started to get involved and got to know the family, became friendly with them, and decided, how can I help? So I collaborated with family, collaborated with state police, did personal investigation type things, helped keep her story alive. One of many stewards of her social network online. Just kind of it organically grew from there, and I've been searching for Kim now since about 2013 or so. And, we wanted to, I guess, make a bigger impact here in the state. And like Dave said, there's a major correlation of missing people and unidentified here. So we decided to open up a nonprofit. Me and a couple other partners, search partners, people we've met along the way. The Morrow family, Karen, Diane, and Richard Morrow are all part of the nonprofit. And, it's to really go ahead and do everything that we can and collaborate with everybody that we can to bring closure to all these families across the state, and across New England. And, how we plan on doing that is by, doing fundraising, by getting specialized equipment, and, helping some of these families, maybe even, with money if they need help, making flyers or posters, or, want to do a search and need some, rope or some grid flags and all those types of things. Those cost money. And, we rely on the community. There's GoFundMe's everywhere, and, we want to help an organized effort to that aspect of things. So, that's it's kind of a double-edged sword there. And then there's the forensic genealogy side of it, us partnering with companies like Othram down in Texas, who have been solving cases across the country with forensic genealogy, investigative genetic genealogy. And that's the bill that we're bringing forward with, Mr. Boyer here. We're looking to, solve a lot of these, not solve, we just want to bring peace to these families, closure to these families. We want to identify these people who have been sitting in the coffers of the coroner's office since, the 70s. And I think we have an obligation, and I'm so happy that, Dave Boyer thinks we have an obligation as a government as well to figure this out. So, it sets a precedent across the country. Believe it or not, we're on the cusp up here in Maine with this type of stuff. And, it's thanks to, Dave and us, coming forward in situations like this, and, being available on the edge like this to let people know that, this technology is out here. It's not a compassion issue within the coroner's office, in my opinion, and we can get into that. But, I think we're on the right track.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So if you guys wouldn't mind discussing the bill completely. So you're looking for how much funding?
So the initial fiscal note is about $100,000. That simply means that's, the cost to do this, that the state estimates based on the number of folks. And that number is dynamic. So that's kind of what they estimated to kind of clear the rolls. And then I think it's like 5,000 or 10,000 a year going forward after that. So, this is like, couch change for Augusta and for Maine. We have a $10 billion budget. Not to say there's not a lot of needs and folks aren't, fighting for funding everywhere, but
it's pretty significant thing though, right? Like if you can put forward 100,000 towards closure for some families of missing people, that seems like a pretty obvious choice.
It is, and that's why I had a lot of leadership on both parties co-sponsor it. We recently had our first kind of hurdle in the committee process with the vote in the Health and Human Services Committee, and we had some families here that joined us that either had missing or unsolved, with their family members, and Jared, of course, and we had a unanimous vote in support of it. Awesome. Not a lot of things get unanimous support, but it's compelling, and it's nothing that I did. You just gotta explain the situation, and people get it. So I appreciate Jared, bringing it to me, and I'm glad we're getting it through. It's actually on the calendar for tomorrow in the House of Representatives. But because we got unanimous support on it, Generally, those things go under the hammer, is what they called, when the speaker hits the gavel, unless someone, for some reason, makes an objection or pulls it. It's smooth sailing from here. So I think the plan is I am going to hold it and say a couple words on the House floor tomorrow, just explaining it and thanking folks and bringing some awareness just to the issue, and should go under the hammer over to the Senate and the governor. And I think then any bills that cost money, they end up on the appropriations table, and that's historically where lots of bills go to die, because you can pass all the bills you want, but if you don't fund them, then it doesn't matter. So
Right.
Jared and I are going to make the case to those appropriation members, on there, and try to get some constituents and folks to tell their story and reach out and explain why it's worth the money. It's a good ROI and could even save the state some money. So that's the path going forward. I think we're optimistic at this point and excited to bring some awareness to the issue and start the testing and get this going.
Yeah, and let them know I'm willing to deal with 4 or 5 more potholes if that means that these
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like we're talking about a couple dozen, so 20 to 27, I think, right? Unknown.
Yeah,
remains.
the coroner's office is saying 20. NamUs says 27, I believe. So we'll get the discrepancy figured out. But
And I mean, even like a price, you said it was about 5,000 a person, right? To have the remains identified. Like that number, the price of that to me is irrelevant anyways, because I think we should all be willing to pitch in whatever. If we could potentially get an answer for something, I think absolutely we should put forward to that. And especially the families themselves, they would be over the moon to have, some closure on their family members.
Absolutely. And I think if, for some reason this, goes sideways or was going to go sideways, I think that's probably something Jared would be pushing next, is private funding of this and a friggin' donation to the state of Maine. Like, here you go. What else do you want? I don't think we're going to have to go that far so that we can, Jared can raise that money on radar and drones and whatnot. I told you.
Yeah. All right. Who had the 13-minute and 57-second mark?
Yeah.
Good odds. Well, it's smart. It saves the taxpayer money, so we can fund it. We're not going to leave lights on. So I appreciate that. Even if I
just got to do a little dance every now and then.
Yeah. Now I know the timestamp.
Yeah, and to that point about doing this privately, I've heard stories of, I'm not going to get into names, but heard stories within people within the state police that are trying to do this privately on their own time and trying to write grants to other nonprofits and fund some of this forensic genealogy stuff, and it's getting turned down. So they don't have the budget for this stuff either. So there's a big black hole that we need to figure out when it comes to these unidentifieds. And,
I was gonna ask you, how many states are currently doing this? Would we be like one of the first states to do this?
Yeah, we're one of the first. I talked to Dave Middleman over at Othram just the other day, and I guess Florida is really on the cusp of all this as well. And they are writing some really nice, legislation right now in regards to this, and formulating their plan. I think a couple of others are on their way, but Florida is the one that comes to mind for me anyway, in regards to something that we're doing. Also, Othram was pretty impressed with how we have it framed up here at the 45 days. The bill, inside the bill, it says within 45 days they have to do this forensic genetic genealogy on these unidentified people. And that's brilliant. It's beautiful because it forces them to take the more cost-effective option. Instead of doing all these antiquated options first and then doing this at the end, it's kind of forcing them into a new way of thinking and a more cost-effective way of doing things.
So just so everyone listening understands, the initial, I think 100,000 would be to take care of the 20 or so that are current, and then we'd kind of move them off the books, right? And then going forward, I think it's 15,000 a year you'd like to set aside for each time we come across the unidentified body. 45 days. Within 45 days, medical examiner has to send that out. So within 3 or 4 months, we'd know who these people are, and families would have closure much sooner than
So
like you
people
mentioned,
aren't
Kim
waiting
Moreau,
decades.
Yeah, 40. I think 48 years for Kim.
Yeah, like when we talked to the coroner's office when I was trying to get all of this figured out, but they're like, it's a budgetary constraint for us. If we're in budget at the end of the year or the end of the quarter, and we have $6,000, $7,000 to put towards this, testing, we'll do it. But that's great. I'm glad you're doing it and you're aware of it.
But it's at the end of the year after like you get the pennies out of the pocket at the end of all of it. And I was going to ask that, like, how much funding is there currently for identifying any sort of remains? And that answers that essentially there's none. There's nothing that's actually set aside for this.
No budgetary line, set up for something like this. No.
Right. And absolutely there should be. Like it kind of blows my mind that today that this is going forward, like it hasn't happened before, like that I'm baffled that it's taken this long for something like this to kind of come through.
Jeff,
it seems like a nonsense. What's that?
Why didn't you think of this, Jeff?
Yeah.
No, it's amazing what you guys are doing. Terry says, thank you both for finally bringing awareness to the public. I certainly would donate.
Nice.
And Kara also said, I love this idea. They deserve closure. Kelly said she would also donate.
All right, missinginmaine.org, right?
Yeah, we got it. You got it. Missingme.org. We got it set up right now. We actually have, some nice clothes on there that you can purchase, and all proceeds go to what we're doing.
Pull that up.
Yeah, one of the biggest things we have going right now here. I get a little bit of a story, but here we go. A couple of years ago, when we were kind of formulating this whole idea, we were looking for Kim in the woods, and we're like, we really wish we had specialized equipment, and we wish we had ground penetrating radar. We wish we had side view sonar, but this stuff costs thousands of dollars. And, I know there's, nonprofits that are doing it, but, we don't have thousands of dollars. And, I'm hoping we can, with the community's help, we can start raising some money to, get some of this equipment so that we can help. I want to open source this to the state police if need be. I want to open source this to, the families really, especially ground penetrating radar. That's a big one. Like there's not a lot of ground penetrating radars in the state of Maine, and there's kind of a demand for it. So if we can open source that, and there's a particular family that, that has a missing loved one and they want to do an organized search and they want to use more than metal detectors, we're going to let them use this. We're going to train them on it. I don't necessarily have to be there, but I would definitely trust like Travis or Jeff, to be on site with something like this, or other people I've met in the community and families I've met in the community to, to share in this equipment and, to help them give peace of mind. I'm not looking to, wipe my hands of a particular area when, and clear it. I'm not clearing anything. We haven't cleared anything in, 11, 12 years in Kim's case. We just keep looking, and, that's what families want to do. They want to keep looking. And I think sometimes, a lot of these families across the state feel like government's giving up on them a little bit. And I'm hoping we can turn that around and, be on the same page and, get this thing going, because we're not going anywhere. We're going to help these families, no matter what anybody says. We're going to get this money. We're going to get this ground penetrating.
No, you guys are doing awesome.
We're going to do it. So one way or another. And I reached out to a company, Easy Radar USA, and I told them the story. I told them the story of Kim. I told them the story how we have been looking for a long period of time and how we're raising money. and I really liked his product. He makes a ground penetrating radar. He's done a bunch of consulting for, high tech companies. And I reached out to him in email. I was like, I love your product. I'd love to, purchase one. Here's a situation up here in Maine. And, maybe out of synchronicity. But he's like, I like your story. I'm willing to sell you one of these at cost, to get you up there. He's like, the reason I made this ground penetrating radar is because my sister went missing over 20 years ago, and I had the ability to help in this way. And this is, one of the reasons I made it. And, it just kind of hit home for everybody. And so, here we are, raising money for ground penetrating radar, and, we're going to get this and allow people to use it. We met thanks to Dave, I met some of these families up at Augusta. He invited them all up there, reached out to them, and got us all coordinated. And, I was able to, it was the same story. I was able to sit down with them, and it's the same story with all the families. They want to search, they want to search this particular mountain. They want to search this particular body of water. They want to search these old wells. They want to, check out this, this particular plot of land, or this island. And, we just need to help them coordinate and bring the right equipment with us, and, just go for it and start finding these people.
That was sort of one of the goals that me and Travis had with this, is if we managed to make some money doing this, that we could put it forward to the families, or getting equipment and getting training for the actual search and rescue sort of stuff. Like,
Me too.
and like that's awesome that there's plenty of other people that are looking to do the same. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know what it looks like right now. This needs to be some sort of movement a little bit. Like, Maine is a big state, and we can have a charter in Jay. We can have, a charter somewhere else up in Augusta, and, different areas, as long as we're, doing the same things and looking for people and organized. I think, we have an opportunity to, make a big difference up here.
Kara says Lucha Belanger comes to mind in needing these resources. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Totally agree. 100%.
Christian made a comment earlier saying law enforcement doesn't care or are not paid enough to care. And I think it's more of the not paid enough side of things, because the budget is very tight. There was
Not
even
enough of them.
Right. Even, and we've mentioned this a few times, but a few years ago they had set aside some money for the cold case department within the state of Maine, and it was just 2 detectives that were already currently full time, and in their spare time they were allowed to work on the cold cases.
And Jared actually helped get that funding, right? You were involved with that as well.
No, not really. I wasn't. I was.
Come on.
I
listened to you talk about it.
Yeah, no, I did. I was friends with Mr. Morrow, but I wasn't really organized or anything at the time. I was just, there for support. But no, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that there was, I mean, it's nice that something was done about it, but the fact that like that's all that the state was sort of willing to concede to it, right, was just 2 people who already had normal full-time jobs, and then it was a spare time job to try and solve the cold cases.
Yeah, it's too bad they couldn't hire on like retired detectives or whatever. And I've seen shows where they do that, where retired detectives need something to do. They're obviously intelligent, they know what to look for, and then they kind of create these groups and they help solve these cases.
I know. It's fun.
I do have a question for David. David, were you aware of like, I think you had mentioned that you weren't aware of like how many unsolved or unidentified people were in Maine, but were you ever someone that watched true crime? Were you involved with this side of the internet or life?
Oh, like true crime just as much as anybody else, from Baltimore. So listen to Serial and, stuff like that, and crime movies and whatnot. But so it's always fascinated me, and everyone, thinks, they can play cop because they watch some Law and Order and whatnot, and so that's fun too. But I mean, this discussion about the cold case unit, I mean, I think that I know that some of the families want to try to set up their own office with some dedicated folks. I'm not read in all the way on the issue, but again, it seems like a reasonable request. And if it's like you guys were discussing, then it's going to be hard to crack cases in that manner. No fault of the fellows there, but we all have lives outside of work, and to be expected to do this on their spare time, it just doesn't make sense. So
you're saying you're on board with like having dedicated detectives on the cold case squad?
If that's something that needs to be said, then yes. And I hope my colleagues could utter those words too. Yeah. And so, I'm down to kind of look at that next and see what else we can do on the legislative side to move the ball forward. And I don't know, Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but does state police have a ground penetrating radar? Don't they rent it?
From what I understand, they rely on other outside consultants for ground penetrating radar. And, from what I understand, talking to, Mr. Morrow and others, sometimes they rely on the University of Maine at Orono for ground penetrating radar.
Right.
Yeah. So when it happens, it happens. But I can tell you, we've waited for ground penetrating radar, and then someone's got promoted or left the squad, and then you have to go and finagle that all over again. So the natural attrition within the state police as well doesn't help a lot of these cold cases. So getting some sort of cold case squad is brilliant, and they want to do it. Again, I think it's just a budgetary issue for them. They want to do it. They want to have a northern guy dedicated to cold case, a central guy in Maine, and a southern guy, and then report to somebody else. It's got to be figured out. It's got to be figured out, and we got to have the right people in place. And I think that's what we're getting to here in the state of Maine now.
So, I mean, I don't need an exact number, but how close are you guys getting to securing your own ground penetrating radar through Missing and Me?
Well, so pretty close. We, talking to Othram, we have to raise probably $4,500 to get, this particular one, because the guy's going to sell it to us at cost. I think this unit right here is like a $6,000 unit. So, I think Othram and a couple other companies that, don't want me to mention their names are going to, donate some money to this. But this is kind of like something we started in 2024. We had raised a little bit of money organically to start the nonprofit, because that's something we wanted to do. And, so we're kind of hitting the ground running again with this particular, this particular fundraiser. But, if we can get a couple $1,000s in the next 2 months, we're looking to purchase this, for some good searches this summer. And
no reason to stop there either, right? Like what's better than one ground penetrating radar than two?
Yeah. And if he's willing to work with us and wants to give us two, absolutely. Let's do it. But, we also want other things, magnetometers. Ground penetrating radar is good for, ground level to maybe 6 to 8 feet. You get a magnetometer in a field because maybe an excavator was used on a crime scene or something like that, and it's down a lot deeper. You're going to need a magnetometer for something like that. So, getting down and really getting the specialized equipment that the state needs to solve some of these, because, it was kind of the Wild West a little bit up here in Maine in the 70s and 80s. And, there was a lot of crime, and, there was a lot of people turning their backs to certain things. And, We have to right a lot of these wrongs, I think. And I think we have the technology now. So let's get it up here. This is nothing new. Some of this stuff is nothing new. Like you look at a company, there's a group of people out in Colorado, NecroSearch. And it's just what you said, Travis. I mean, it's a group of doctors and forensic anthropologists and botanists and, you know, all these different scientists, retired officers that have come together to start solving these crimes. And I don't know. I'm not the nonprofit for that. You know, I really don't think I am. I think maybe, you know, maybe something it'll turn into that eventually. But, you know, I'd love to surround myself with retired police officers and forensic anthropologists and botanists and all these people who really want to make a difference and get them, you know, in a field somewhere searching. Like we need that professionalism up here. So it's going to come from
Absolutely.
somewhere.
So Jeff and I both have drones, and I'm actually looking at like underwater drones too for some of these searches. So like
Nice.
one of the theories says Luja Blanders in Crystal Lake. So
Yeah.
maybe go to Crystal Lake and help Linda look for her husband.
Yeah. I'd love to be part of that. You let me know.
Absolutely.
Got it. Maybe someday I'll get my diving certificate. I don't know. Kind of a
I'm
whim.
petrified of the deep water. I could never do it.
I've thought about doing it, but I'm getting older. That's probably a young man's game.
No, thanks. So, you know, just to kind of bring light to everything right now, you know, you've got on name is 146 people missing in Maine, 28 unidentified on name list. That's what it says. New Hampshire, 57 missing, 7 unidentified. Vermont, 55 missing, 7 unidentified. Massachusetts, 198 missing, 199 unidentified. Connecticut, yeah,
That's like the same number.
Well, I mean, people are bringing.
And then you look at the population of Maine, like, and
Yeah.
we don't even compare, but our numbers of missing is right up there.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing. That's why I asked you earlier about like how many other states are doing this, because if we get the ball rolling and everyone else is doing it, we're going to bring their people home, and hopefully they can
Yes.
help us bring our people home, right?
yeah, and I'm hoping to get, you know, Dave Boyer's help on this and his advice, because he's been all over the place. You know, I really want to make this some sort of coalition here in New England. I want to reach out to the, you know, the Dave Boyers of New Hampshire and Vermont, and Connecticut, and, you know, talk to them down there, because we are going to bring people home. I hate to say it, but people brought a lot of bodies to Maine. And, you know, most of them or some of them aren't probably from here. So we're going to bring closure to some of our New England states, and even, you know, beyond, and maybe even Canada, and vice versa. So we might as well just all work together and get this done.
And you talked about the 70s. A lot of hitchhiking in the 70s. Truck drivers were constantly picking young ladies up or young men or whatever and taking them out of state. And so I think a lot of Maine people are, like you said, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, a lot of their people are up here.
Yeah. You know, back to Kim. There's one story about Kim, you know, where possibly one of the prime suspects went to New York the very next morning. Well, that opens up a really large area of where Kim could possibly be if you follow that particular theory. So, you know, it's all over the place. And I think once we find, you know, they've obviously, once they found these identified people, they have the coordinates of where they are. And I think the location of where they find these unidentified people could, you know, really lead to who this possibly is as a suspect as well.
Right.
So,
Especially if they're, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Patricia says, yes, a lot of people don't know about this technology. If so, they would definitely donate. She also said that she would donate. Crystal says, I was just thinking about the diving because I've watched that online to go and find vehicles. Yeah, the Adventures with Purpose guys, they do great work. But they need a place to go. So you need to have an idea of where you think, you know, somebody might be.
Yeah.
And Jared was talking before we started the podcast about you, David, saying that you were really ambitious. So that we went down to watch you speak, and that you'd give it a nice long speech, but as soon as you'd finished, you'd packed up your bag and you were out of there because you had other stuff to do as well. So it's good to see that, you know, there's someone that actually cares, that's representing the state, about issues like this. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'll
this
take
is
you the ambitious politician as a compliment. I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah. Yes. Not for yourself. Ambitious. Yes.
No, you
This
want
is
to
to help.
fight. Like,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I always like the underdog. Everyone feels like the underdog. I feel like the underdog a lot of times here, and before being a politician and a representative, and these families are the underdogs. So I'm proud to fight for them.
Yeah, it's absolutely a worthy cause for sure, and we're happy to have you on our side.
this is your first term, right?
Yes, sir. I've been involved in politics here in Maine. It's about 2010, 2011. Got here on the Ron Paul presidential campaign. So I'm kind of a libertarian type. And we kicked butt for him here in Maine. And I stuck around from Maryland originally. And as I mentioned, and then worked on the marijuana campaign to make it legal here in Maine in 2016. And big part of my work up here now is trying to make the market friendly for small businesses and not, try to keep the industry for Mainers and locals as much as possible as
Go do the dance.
big cannabis comes and pulls the plug and turns the lights out. But yeah, so that's kind of my background, and moved to Poland a couple years ago, and it's a great community and a great area, and decided to get involved in a more formal way and not behind the scenes, running things. And it's been fun. It's been fun. I don't know if that's the best word. It's one of the things that's been fun, but working as a Republican, we don't have any, the House, the Senate, the governor, it's all Democrats. So I'm trying to see the ideas that can win, for both sides. And so issues like this and cannabis reform and some good government bills. And I think this is a good government bill, so I'm including it in my slate of good government bills, because I think
Awesome.
I don't think government should do much, but I think this is one of the bare minimums, the least that can be done in a society to bring closure to folks.
Absolutely. Well said too, David.
Thank you.
What is this? Oh, sorry.
Oh, Travis, we don't have our music going. What is wrong with
Oh
you?
my goodness. Oh my gosh. We're 38 minutes into it. No music. Barbara, yes, we interviewed your daughter, and her granddaughter's missing from Tennessee. Her name was is Layla. How did I miss that?
What kind of music?
Something happened. What kind do you want? You want like a disco? Do you want to go with the light show you got going on there?
No, something
serious.
heavy.
Dum, 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 dum.
I don't know what one you usually put on, Travis.
Terry said, "What a great podcast! So glad finally for the families. Have a great night, everyone." It's the night driving one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's absolutely, like, it's again surprising that it's taken this long. That I genuinely thought something like this was already kind of in the books, but the fact that it's all been like spare change it's mind-boggling. But it's awesome we got Jared and David on the case to work on stuff like this.
Patricia said, "Thank you, Dave, for helping. My nephew is missing in Washburn recently. Her nephew is Eric Foote. He disappeared January 30th, right at the end of January this year, up in Washburn. And actually, an officer was the last person to be seen with him. So that's kind of odd. The officer then quit his job, hired a lawyer, and who knows what's going on with that."
Holy moly.
Oh, sad.
Thank you, Patricia, for joining us. Whoops,
Oh.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's what happens when we're both touching buttons.
We can't be trusted. Oh, can't find my way home.
Can't find my way home. That's not good. That's probably something for Jared, though.
Yeah.
I know who that is.
Yeah. He's trying to tell me something. That's funny.
So, yeah, David, again, thank you for, helping Jared, helping the state of Maine, helping the families of the missing and the unsolved, being a voice. It's good to see someone like you in there, having the courage to speak what needs to be spoken. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thanks for the stuff that you guys do and highlighting these cases and keeping the hope alive and working on it and Jared and I'm hoping that we can bring more awareness to these different issues with this bill. And I talked to Jared about some earned media opportunities to really write an op-ed or have a press conference to talk about the bill and talk about the nonprofit and the more people that know about it, the more people that will donate and even just the more people that know is situational awareness, right? So but yeah, definitely if you're listening now, go to the website missinginme.org. You can donate right there for the ground penetrating radar. $50, $100, $200, $5. They generously offered this at cost because he understood it about ground penetrating radar. So I like the Hope shirt. I like the blanket. They're pretty
I
cool.
like the sweatshirt here. I think I'm gonna order myself one.
I like the sweatshirt. It's a nice hoodie.
Yeah.
It actually.
So if people wanted to. Just to get to the bill for a second. So you said that there's hopefully not really too many obstacles going forward, but what could people do if they want to try to help? If it seems like it might get a little mired, what could people do to try and help with this?
I would don't want to jinx us or anything, but it looks promising because of the bipartisan unanimous support in committee. Somebody would pretty much have to be trying to just get at me for some other stuff I did, and so hopefully this doesn't become in the crossfire. I don't look at it. We got the speaker on there, the Senate president co-sponsoring it, so that always helps. Speaker Ross, President Jackson, Chairwoman Meyer of the committee there, Javner, Representative Javner, and then got some members of appropriations on the committee. Representative Collings, Gatine, and Matlack and Millett are all on the appropriations committee, so that also helps our prospects. But to your question, what they could do, and sure they should do it. It can't hurt, and everyone should have a dialogue with their representative and senator. Is just look up who's my representative in Maine. You put your address in there, your zip code. And you have your state representative, which I'm a state representative in the state house, in the House of Representatives. Then you have your state senator, who's in the Senate, and there's less of them. And the bill goes to both bodies, and then the governor has to sign it, or just she can let it go into law without her signature as well. But yeah, you should email or phone call your state rep and your state senator, both of them, because you have one of each, and just say, support LD. What is it? 838.
It is
838.
A lot of numbers these days. LD 838, Rep Boyer's bill to fund the unidentified remains so we can test them, and that's it. It doesn't have to be much. You can give your own reason why or how you're connected to the issue. Especially if you're listening right now, you probably have maybe a connection to this topic, and that always helps. So yeah, by all means, especially if it turns out any of those representatives or senators are on the appropriations table, those are the I'm going to be working with Jared to try to do some strategic outreach to people that live in those districts of those members, and that always helps. But I think we'll be able to get it funded either way. But you don't want to take anything for granted, and this is something that's really important. So yes, thank you for asking. Email or phone call your rep and senator in support of LD 838.
And then, David,
Absolutely.
if you could just quickly say your home phone number so we can all call you later.
Honestly,
That's a joke.
most of my colleagues put their home phone or their cell phone on their state
Really?
form.
Oh wow.
You can tell if it's the office number or not, but we're pretty accessible, as far as, bodies of, politicians go. You have pretty good outreach if you pick up the phone, email, or come up to Augusta, or shoot us a Facebook message. So that's a cool thing. It's a cool thing not being a rep and having that access. And it's a cool thing now being, so connected to folks like Jared that, good ideas can get pushed through and pass. And that's the good part about politics, I guess.
Yeah, this is definitely a out of the ordinary for what we would normally cover, but it's definitely still right in line with the stuff, because it's good to see, like, hey, there's not only that there's something going through, but legally, but there's also people in the part of the process that really give a damn as well. So, like, this is definitely an important thing that has to happen, but it's equally important. There's people working on this sort of stuff to help these families.
Yeah, no, I want to say thank you to you guys. I mean, you guys have been here a while now doing this and giving us the platform to talk about the bill and, bring exposure to something that, obviously fits into what you guys are doing, but outside the ordinary a little bit. I really appreciate that. You guys kind of gave us a platform on a whim. So.
Oh yeah, no, anytime something like this, if something just comes through, absolutely let us know, and we'll have you on as soon as we can. Like, this is really good stuff, and I will be making sure to send a lovely message to my representative as soon as I can. As soon as I find out who they are. Very soon.
Guys, it's going to the House tomorrow, which again should be fine. But yeah, definitely it'll be the Senate next week. So you have, a couple days and sometimes bills go and die in the Senate. So we don't want that to happen. I don't think it'll happen, but it can't hurt to send a note.
Yeah, make it important, right? So, and David, you can stay if you want, but I did want to talk to Jared about Kim Moreau's case, because you are so heavily involved with that. Is there any updates with Kim's case at all?
Well, kind of. I mean, we're always looking for Kimberly. We've done a lot of searches for Kim in the Canton, Maine area, in Livermore, Maine, and some other areas. But, we kind of keep it close to cuff because it's still, an open case. The police are still actively looking for Kim. I can tell you there's, a couple new leads that we've noticed in the last couple months that we've given to the state police that, they should be working on. We hope they're working on, I don't know. I don't have the authority to, call the state police and be like, hey, did you follow up with that lead that we gave you, and stuff like that. So it gets tough sometimes.
How about David? Can he follow up with them?
But we do what we can. We do what we can to give them the leads, and that's all you can do. And it's the tough part about it, because it's just like searching sometimes. Like, you're out searching a particular area for Kim or Michelle Jacatis or somebody else involved in my region, and you leave empty-handed at the end of the day after sweating with a metal detector and searching. That the up and downs of it are tough. So, that's
and it's tough for like you and I, like what Dick's going through.
I know.
Can imagine. Like
I know. Yeah.
For the family.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's what I was getting to. Like, I see Mr. Morrow and them, still never giving up. We'll never give up. We'll never give up hope. Or still think about it all the time. But, everybody's getting older, including you and I. And it's getting tougher on everybody to get out there and search. And, but I think, if we can create some sort of, like I said, nonprofit up here and get some people, under our wing and start organizing, that we can leave this for generations. And hopefully this isn't a problem for generations and generations, but at least we'll have, organized nonprofits in place and, people like Dave at the State House and, people like you, shouting everything out and getting this all done and working together and, trying to solve this problem so it's not an issue in our future.
And I misspoke earlier. I said 48 years, but I think 38 years for Kim Moreau, right?
Yeah, 30. Yeah, I think we're at 38 years in May. Yeah. Yeah.
So no family should have to wait 38 years to find a loved one.
No, I mean,
like we talked about, if other states are doing what we're going to try to do here, that hopefully she's found soon as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be awesome to see this become like a trend where every state starts moving into this. And like we were talking before the podcast, how your connection to this, it was new technology that helped your family. And
yeah.
I don't know if you want to go into that, but
yeah, I'll get into it. I don't talk about it much, but I'll definitely get into it because it kind of, it's full circle for me. And, when I was a boy, I lived up here in Maine. My mother lived in Florida. And, when I was 11 years old, my second cousin was, murdered at his house. I was supposed to be with him that night. And my mother said, no, I couldn't go to Blockbuster. I couldn't go to Pizza Hut because I had chores to do the next day. And I was semi-bummed, but not too bad. But, unfortunately, that same night, my second cousin was murdered. Someone was robbing his house. He was coming home from, getting Blockbuster and Pizza Hut. And he ran into the perpetrator and he got shot. And it went unsolved for a long period of time. That was 91 when that happened. And wow. There was a bicycle left at the scene. There was a hat left at the scene, and they stole, my relative's car. And so there was DNA on the bike, and there was DNA on the hat, and they ran it, but they didn't get any hits. But, thanks to aggressive state police and civilians down there, they reran everything in 2009 and found out who killed my relative. And person who killed my relative was killed 2 years prior in a drive-by. But my family got the peace. They didn't have to go to trial. And then I came around here and was introduced to a community where Kim Moreau was pretty prevalent and kind of stuck with me. And I just want to help. There's a lot of people that want to help, and there's a lot of loopholes and things in the way that I think we need to weed through, but I think we're going to get there together.
Yeah, it definitely seems like this seems like it's somewhat small, but I think it can be very significant as well. What's happening with this bill?
So Crystal is Nick Cross's mom. He went missing up in the Milo area. It's very discouraging because there's not one single agency that families can depend on. It's always one agency waiting on the next one to get everybody together on the same day or the same time, and then a new emergency for one of them happens. Then research, I think she's talking about the search, never takes place. That's exactly what happened to us, and the authorities never did the big search. Always excuses. Nick was located eventually, but he should have been located much sooner. And in fact, Jeff and I had created a search party to go up there and look around, and we couldn't find him either, but he was located.
So Jared, thank you for sharing your story. It's definitely deeply personal. I wonder what the policies are about, when do we retest things? Because, that's a great point. Like, okay,
really
we ran the DNA when this thing happened and this dude or woman wasn't in the system then, but who's to say they don't do something 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road and then get, put in, the DNA then. So that'd be interesting. I doubt there's like a hard and fast policy about it, but there should definitely be money and some discretion to just retest things every, 5 or 10. I don't know, but it's good to have
LD 839. I don't know. I don't know how that all works.
Yeah.
David, you could be the voice of all these victims, right? Like, this could be your platform. This could be like your ivory tower. Like, you could do this.
I appreciate that. I definitely am in a green tower with cannabis, but I'm happy for this for unidentified remains and missing folks to be my my other signature issue. It's maybe they go together, maybe they don't. I don't know, but
I told Jeff earlier. I said so Dave's the Republican, so that's one good point. And then also you funded for cannabis, so you're freaking cool. This is awesome.
Cannabis is the underdog too. They fought against, sold things that were legal, beat up by the government, and for growing a plant, and that's just another underdog. And but Jared, thanks for that's interesting. I think I'm not a big study guy. We need to study, but I could definitely see the value in a formal stakeholder kind of group convened by the legislature over kind of cold cases as a big umbrella or something like that, and then just talking and seeing what's what. So
yeah, I think it's great. Anything you guys can do from up there and help out is really just going to trickle down in the community. So very thankful for you, Dave Boyer.
Yeah,
happy to help.
Not sure if you're aware of sort of this community, I guess you might call it, of people for the missing people and the cold cases, but it is there is a pretty significant size group of us trying to do this fight. And I assume you weren't really aware of that, but you're kind of in it now, whether you like it or not. So
thanks for having me. And it seems like a great, compassionate group of people, and smart, and Yankee ingenuity, getting things done, and looking and finding a way. So I'm happy to help, and it's an easy cause to push, and it's an obvious one, and I think that's why we found that support, and should have a unanimous vote tomorrow, and going forward and getting this thing funded. So, and keep me read in, keep me plugged in on legislative solutions and awareness and issues that come up. And I'm grateful that Jared happens to live in the district that I ran in, and it maybe I like the term that you used earlier, synchronicity. So maybe.
I got
a quick
very
ethical,
very good.
Got a quick ethical comment here. What do you guys think of this? Maybe there should be a bank with mandatory DNA.
I don't know about all that.
Oh no, I I disagree with that. But
I see what you're getting at. I appreciate the sentiment.
I don't want my DNA all over the place.
I'm just scared to do 23andMe or Ancestry,
right?
Just because they'll hand over things to the government. I didn't, murder somebody in Alaska, but someone did and got caught.
Someone did, yes.
And I think
someone from Maine did actually do that.
They were from Mainers, and that's
he's got a beard. He's about 6 foot tall, dark hair.
Likes to wear blue with a salmon color tie.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if you guys, if any other stuff comes up that think might be down up our alley, absolutely let us know. We're more than willing to help in any way we can with this sort of thing. It's really good to see.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
All right. Yes. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Jared. Good seeing you. David, nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes. Thank you everyone for tuning in. You guys have a good night.
Thank you.